This is Dr. Orest on Awakened Nation with Brad oh gosh, I forgot.
Zalas. Go ahead. Do it again.
Brad Zalas. I already screwed it up.
A huge shift is taking place on planet Earth. People seem to be waking up. Tired of the way things used to be, they are creating something brand new and changing the world we live in. My name is Brad Zalas, and I get to sit down with the next generation of idea makers, the disruptors, and the game changers. Everyday people, just like you and me, from all over, who are doing amazing things to Awakened Nation.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, if you're a man of a certain age, get ready. We're going to have a lot of fun today because my guest today is Dr. Orest Komarnyckyj.
Komarnyckyj, you smile when you say that.
Komarnyckyj. It's easy.
There you go.
He's helping guys create kick-ass lives for themselves and those they love. Welcome to the show, Orest. I appreciate you being on the show. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Now, I wanted to kick this off right away. You had a prestigious career as a periodontal regenerative surgeon, moving to a new passion in June 2018. You want to talk about that? Let's just dive right in.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say one thing here. I noticed that you said your program began in the 70s at the Scout Reservation.
Yes.
I will tell you that my Boy Scout troop was very unique because that's where I learned how to smoke cigarettes in the 5th grade. And before the meetings, we would go on to the baseball field and throw firecrackers at each other.
Well, that's how it was done. You know, when you were a kid back in the 60s and 70s, I mean, I left the house at 8 a.m., wolfed down some breakfast as fast as I could. My dad was a chiropractor, so he started office hours. And my mom, she wasn't big on getting up and just making breakfast for her little sunshine. So I would grab peanut butter toast and a glass of juice and get on my bike and just go out and hang out with friends. And boys, back in the day, what did we do? You build a tree house. You found a place by the creek where there was a log laid over the creek, and you made a little fort there. You rode your bike all day. Maybe you had a couple of quarters, and you buy some pie and a little pint of chocolate milk, and that was your lunch. Those are back in the day, man.
And then the other thing that you did in the 60s was look at the Sears and Roebuck lingerie section of their catalog. And if you're lucky, you found your uncle's Playboy.
Yeah, if you were lucky.
If you were lucky.
Yeah, porn wasn't everywhere like it is today. I mean, you got your jollies that like you said, the Sears and Roebucks or JCPenney catalog. The lingerie section was about as risque as we would get. Yes, very much so. But I think
so you asked me. Let me answer that question. So when I left, my wife had business up here in Las Vegas, and that's where I live. We lived in Phoenix. I grew up in Central Phoenix. I lived in Phoenix from 1960 to 2018, except for going away to school at various times. And so when I came up here, I was not interested in being retired.
Right.
I think that's a horrible idea for men in general. When you retire, you tend to die. I mean, physically die. And if you don't die physically, then you tend to die mentally and as a contributing member to life. So I really did not want to do that. And I had a podcast for a little bit. Actually, I had quite a while, about 150 episodes plus. And it was actually the opportunity for me to spend an hour with people that normally would have no reason to talk to me. So I did that, and it's allowed me to my coaching business, my coaching profession now allows me to stay active. Most of the time, I'm dealing with men that are younger than me. Not that much younger, but generally younger. But I think retirement is a horrible idea. For a short while up here, we lived in a 55 and over community, and quite frankly, I hated it.
Yeah,
Yeah. When I went into the gym, I like to go to, I lift heavy. I'm a power lifter. I still, we can get into this, but I mean, I'm working my way up after some injuries back up to 100-pound dumbbells, bench
Right.
pressing. Okay. Uh, so when I go to the gym, I usually go to the gym and then there's like, there's a whole bunch of us working out. It used to be, had a great workout group. It was very eclectic. Uh, as a as a heterosexual Caucasian Republican, I was Mr. Diversity in that group. Uh, but then when we went to this 55 and over community, I would grunt and people would be going like, "Oh, are you okay? Do I need to call paramedics?" Oh God, leave me alone.
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
They think
And
you're
this
the
one,
old guy.
yeah, yeah. And this one time, this woman comes over to me and I've got like 90-pound dumbbells over my head.
Right.
And at that point, it's a lot, it's really mental.
Yeah.
And she starts yelling that your arms are shaking, you're gonna get a heart attack. I'm going like, shut the fuck up. And
Yeah.
don't stand 3 feet next to me, because if I drop these babies, which I don't do often, but maybe once a year, you will never walk the same again.
That's hilarious. You know what I've found? People do have this mental picture in their head, this archetype, let's call it, that they can't get rid of, where they think that, because you're a certain age, you can't do certain things. I started training in Kempo Jiu-Jitsu at 45 years of age, got my black belt 2 weeks before my 51st birthday, had 10 other belt tests before that, and then continued training for another 2, 3 years after that. And yeah, I think it was a week ago. I went to lift a box and put it in my truck, and the guy's like in his 80s, and I'm in my 60s, and he goes, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! You got to be careful. You're going to hurt your back." And I just looked at him like, "What are you talking about?" And I've come to realize, or it's and you probably can comment on this, but a lot of people didn't take care of themselves their entire life. They never went back
Hmm.
to the gym. They never worked out. They never lifted weights.
Correct.
And all of a sudden, you're the guy who doesn't have body aches and pains or joint pains or any of that stuff, and you're lifting weights and you're doing the sauna and you're taking the right supplements, and they're thinking you're an old guy and you have all the symptoms they do, and you don't. And
Yeah,
it really boils
exactly.
down to working out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think I think you're insane as a man or a woman if you don't do any resistance training at least 3 times a week.
Yeah.
I think just one, to keep muscle mass on, and two, to help your bone density. And I interviewed I interviewed a bunch of anti-aging doctors, a lot of, I call them tip of the spear doctors. And she told me that if you break your hip past the age of 65, your lifespan is 2 years. Two
What?
years. Yeah. You never heal. Most of the time, people don't heal don't it just wears them out. And so yeah, it's a fairly common phenomenon that people die relatively soon after breaking their hip.
Wow. Uh, I have found through my own research that the number one cause of brittle bones and hip joints, cracking and breaking, believe it or not, is the chlorine in tap water. So if
Oh,
you drink it,
I'm not surprised. Yeah.
yeah. And so to strengthen your bones, the number one thing to do is resistance training, weightlifting. But here's where the myth comes from. You might find this funny, Orest. But it's that guy who played football in high school who never worked out a day in his life until he hit his 50s. And he said, you know what? I'm going to hit the gym and I'm going to get on a crusade to get my health back. And they hit the gym exactly as they did when they were 18 or 24. And then they have
Yeah.
a heart attack. And that has created the myth of the older guy working out. Okay. That's what we're
Yeah.
living under.
Well, that's also very interesting you bring that up, because that's also very true about how that particular person gets injured. And I was listening to Tim Ferriss podcast, and I think his name is Charles Summers. He's the USA men's Olympic gymnastics coach, and he made an interesting comment because he talked about people trying to get back into shape, and he says the reason why they get injured is that you can grow muscle at 90 days. It takes 210 days to grow the ligaments and the tendons and everything to support those muscles.
Wow.
So most of the time, what happens is that people, particularly probably more likely men, will outpace their muscle growth, and the soft tissues are lagging behind, and that's where they start getting the injuries.
It's interesting. Let's dig into how you got into this passion. So you're a dentist, basically for how many years, and all of a sudden you step back and you go, I gotta teach men today. And I can see why you wanted to do this, because I have a lot of friends who are winding down in their lives. They hit 60 and, well, I'm going to wind down. But people like you wind up. And you teach men today how to, when they get that second life or that second chance, or as they call it, a second act, you coach people into saying, hey, you can do this. Let's kick this up a notch now. Let's talk about that.
Well, one of the things that a lot of, and when I heard the statistics, I was stunned by it. But you know who Dan Kennedy is, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I read his book, No BS Marketing to the Affluent, and he had lots of very, interesting statistics in there. And one of the things that really surprised me is that most divorces of couples over 50 are initiated by the woman.
Wow.
I was totally stunned. I thought it was just dude looking for the trophy wife.
Right.
I mean, I would bet big money on that. That was the case. And he said actually if you're marketing high-end services, that's the target audience, because when they have the guy's money, two, they're usually they're high candidates for plastic surgeon, dental work, body recontouring, blah 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 blah, all that stuff, because they're going back into the market. And so guys give up on life, and that starts early. That starts earlier, and I have a very big theory on this. It's not my theory, but one of the things that happens, and it happens so slowly that you don't notice it, is men's testosterone goes down.
Yeah.
And they become less masculine. Let's not quibble about it. They become less masculine. They become less interesting. They become less happy with the world, and consequently, they become incredibly dull. They become dull. I mean, no, and I'll guarantee you, no one's ever called me dull.
Yeah.
So they become dull, and then they're passing on life. And the thing is, like, okay, people talk about 60. Well, there's a good chance that me at soon to be 72 in October 8th, if anybody wants to give me a birthday present, I'm an XL shirt. There's a good chance I'm going to live past 100.
Yeah.
That's 30 years. That's 30
Yeah.
years. I'm not going to go hit a little ball and then go look for it in people's yards. That, I mean, that just sounds insane. We knew a guy who very successful, very, very successful 8-figure exit, and the first number was not a 1. And he played golf every day, and he was one of the most miserable people I ever met. He was incredibly miserable. But yeah, so I think there's things that you can do. I started doing that when I was in my 40s. And well, I'll tell you where up, because I'm a big advocate. I like to talk about it. Is I've been on testosterone for over 25 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it is a life changer in terms of, one, for me, it's a monster attitudinal drug. It's a monster antidepressant drug.
Big time.
It keeps me young. It helps me keep muscle mass on. It helps me. I get more bang for the buck in the gym.
Yep.
It improves your heart. There's a new study just came out. Finally somebody did a study. 5,000 men, double blind, just the way it's supposed to be. You have to have your lab value in testosterone had to be below 300 to be part of this study. Half the group got placebo. The other one got a gel, which is not my favorite way of getting it. But and all the things, all the myths, all the urban legends turn out to be false. No, you don't get heart disease from testosterone. No, you don't get prostate cancer from heart disease. No, you don't get high blood pressure from testosterone. All those things that people talk about, like, oh, you're going to get this and you're going to get that. It doesn't happen. The only thing that they found, and this is like easily done, is that your hematocrit, the thickness of your blood goes up, and what do? You go and donate blood. It's not like really a big deal. You go and donate blood, and that takes care of it.
Well,
but all those myths, and I still argue with my primary care physician, because it's really hard to find doctors that will actually give you a level that's going to make a difference that you're going to notice.
right.
And they're going to be, most of the time, they're going to be anti-aging doctors, or they call them functional medicine doctors now. And even there, you have to be careful about who you pick. Now they have all these clinics now. They'll give you just about anything you want, and plus they sell you a whole bunch of other shit that you don't need, because they upsell you on it.
I had my testosterone checked back in 2018. And the reason I had it checked was I got really emotional over something that I have never gotten emotional over before, not at this level. And I couldn't concentrate, and I was exhausted during the day, couldn't sleep at night. I had all the classic symptoms, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm,
And
sure.
I went to the doctor, and he said, your testosterone levels are at 318. And there's supposed to be, for a man my age, well, actually, I can't say a man my age. It's supposed to be between 800 and 1200. And so
Did your
I
doctor actually
start,
say this?
I beg your pardon?
Did your doctor actually say that?
Yes. It,
Oh my
it's,
God,
it's,
he's a visionary.
he's between 800 and 1200, he said. That's where it's supposed to be. And so
Okay.
I started on a regimen of getting the testosterone and the gonadal, injections as well, because if you go on testosterone, your testicles will shrink. So they have to give you the gonadal stuff to keep your testicles at the same
Yeah,
size.
HCG. Yeah.
Yeah. And HGC, yes. And I think it took about 3 weeks, Orest. You'll laugh at this. It took about 3 weeks. I got up one day. I got 8 hours of work done like that. Didn't need a nap. Clarity was there. It was just astounding to me that this one male hormone is driving everything. It's what makes a man a man. So those of you
Absolutely.
who are listening and you are of a certain age and you're thinking, well, I'm just getting older. You don't have to age gracefully. You don't have to become feminized. And, maybe your grandfather,
Docile.
he got
Yeah.
to a certain age where he just sat in a chair all day and
Yeah.
got a beer gut.
Yeah.
You can reverse a
Drinking.
lot
Yeah.
of things today. And it's kind of,
Yeah.
we're actually living in an exciting time where life science is catching up to the
Yeah.
aging
Yeah.
myths. Yeah.
So let me share a little bit about what I know about these numbers that everybody's quoting. Because what your doctor said is very unusual for a physician to say, because what most physicians, they will treat what's called the normal range. And the normal range actually just recently got dropped from 11 something to 9 something, the high normal,
Right.
and the low normal got dropped lower. Okay, so a lot of doctors will say, "Oh, you fall in the normal range." Well, the way these lab values are calculated is they average the people that take the test. And there's like there's the physician is from Harvard. He's a statistician, MD, blah blah blah. And he says, and he's the one. He's actually given credit on the LabCorp thing for these values where they come from, and so he. Or I'm not sure which company, but and he says that this is epidemiological data. This is not meant to treat individuals. But we've gotten to where so many physicians are practicing defensive medicine, so they get into this. So the other thing that's happening, because so I would encourage, and I said, don't be afraid of the higher end of that numbers, because you're gonna feel wonderful. I went to a few years ago. I went to New Zealand with my younger daughter for 3 weeks. It was her high school graduation present. I got a watch. She gets a trip to New Zealand. So and I didn't take my testosterone. And because I just, going in a foreign country, I don't know what the laws are there.
Yeah.
I had one bad day with a customs agent in New Zealand, and the next thing you know, you're looking for a criminal lawyer in New Zealand, and like I said, I just and it was kind of funny because the testosterone that I take is the injectable form of cypionate.
Yeah.
And the half-life is 8 to 10 days. And my wife, when I was on the phone with her at day 8, she noticed. And by day 10, she asked me, like, did you take your testosterone? I go, no. And she goes, wow. She was pretty amazed. But let me share with you also one other thing here about this. Many of the doctors I interviewed on my podcast, and I've heard this also from friends, that their sons in their early 20s have lower baseline values than men in their 50s and 60s. And that's also from clinicians also that say that.
I've heard this. Yes, I've heard that. I've seen fathers in households who started getting on testosterone, and then they find out their son has low testosterone
Absolutely.
as well in the same home, and no one's questioning why, by the way.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, I can answer that one also. Yeah, because I had a friend whose sons were under 200.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they're early
women
20s.
Women have more testosterone.
Exactly. So, and I've run into this more often than not. And people say, oh, men aren't as manly. Young men aren't as manly as they used to be, and they're right.
Yeah,
they're absolutely right. And women, young women, are going like, where are the men? And what they're saying, I'm this sounds so egotistical, but what they're saying is like, where are the men like my father?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what they're wondering. Like, why is this kid not? Well, why is this kid, first of all, not interested in sex?
Yes.
Or maybe he's only interested in sex on porn. Why is he always playing video games? Why is he just, why is he living in his parents' house? All this stuff. And so it's a factor. But how this is happening, and there's a article, and let me make sure I get it correct here. Okay. And this is not, this is, for those of you that may say, oh, this is brain foil, tinfoil hat shit. It's not. So this is an article. This was actually a paper out of the American Physiological Society. It's called Physiological Reviews. Highly, basically reviewed. I mean, you don't get in there with tinfoil hat. That's the
right.
And so they talk about male reproductive disorders and fertility trends, influences of environment and genetic susceptibility. So this one of the named authors is an epidemiologist from NYU, a few of them from Hebrew University in Israel. They looked at a lot of data. And what they found, and this correlates with the low testosterone level, is that sperm counts in men have dropped by 50% in the last 30 years.
Wow.
And so those of you that are worried about the climate, screw you. You don't worry about the climate. You don't worry about the extinction of the human race. The slope of that decline is not abating. It's still going. It's declining at that same rate. And their prediction is if you extrapolate it out to 2050, which is not that far away,
Yeah.
most men in the world will be infertile.
That's in 26 years.
Yeah, that's not that far away.
No.
And you're seeing this actually, it used to be, when people weren't able to have children, it used to be the women. And now when you talk to these fertility doctors, more often than not, it's the man.
Yes.
It's the man. And not only that, but there's all sorts of one of the authors, the epidemiologist from NYU, saying this is actually showing up in all different areas. The like sperm banks. They used to have so much sperm per ml. Well, they
Right.
dropped down their values of what they consider acceptable sperm
Wow.
because they could not find donors at those higher levels. There was another article that just came out recently that I got alerted to that talked about in 100% of the testicles that were tested, there were microplastics.
Wow.
Yeah, it wasn't a huge sample, but 100% is pretty hard to get on any kind of study.
That, whoa. So these plastic bottles that we're drinking out of, and people don't realize processed food like cheese has plastic in it. And
Sure.
in my household, my girl is Vietnamese, so we have rice in our diet. We have to be very picky about where we buy our rice because they're making miniature plastic pieces that look just like the rice and putting it in the bag so that they can get more money per pound. So we have plastic in all of our food products.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're also thinking of, the Bill Gates and Coca-Cola have gotten together. They're going to put nanotechnology in Coca-Cola products.
Yeah.
This modern world is killing us, folks, and
Yeah.
this is not a conspiracy theory. I wish people would stop labeling
But
things
yeah.
conspiracy theories because if a noted paper or a place like where you can publish articles like the New England Journal of Medicine, if they're telling you this outright, you might want to listen and stop putting it into that realm of tinfoil hat wearing people,
Yeah.
because the proof is in the pudding. We actually
Yeah.
have young men with breast tissue. I just want to say this before we move on. I think it was about 10, 15 years ago, I heard an announcement on the radio where they had announced that 50% of teenage boys had breast tissue. And in the
Mhm.
same sentence, they said, the pharmaceutical industry said, this is normal. Okay, the authorities have spoken. It's normal
Yeah, that's right.
for
Oh,
your
we
son to have
you can
boobs.
count on everything they said. And the other thing, Brad, before we move on to a whole different subject, because I know it's uh, the most countries are not repopulating.
Yeah.
They're not replacing the people that are dying in their countries. This is especially true in Europe. It's super true in Japan. And I've heard also because of they had this one child policy. It's super true in China,
Yes.
and so you're having, like I said, don't worry about the Earth being overpopulated. That's not the major concern right now.
It's going to
But
take
yeah,
care of itself. Yeah.
yeah, because of the birth is the birth rate is 2.1 for every woman, uh, and so that is not happening. The only reason it's not we are repopulating here in the United States is that we have a high and increasing number of Hispanics, and they tend to have larger families.
Yes.
That's just culture. That's a cultural thing.
And they're also not eating foods that are GMOs and things like that.
Yeah,
We go to
yeah,
our local Mexican supermarket here. It's a little small place. You feel like you walked into Mexico. It has those linoleum floors and bad lighting, and they have every single product you could ever want, from plantains to carne asada to all the delicious foods that you see from the Mexican culture. But you also notice they're not packed with a bunch of chemicals. because they're shipping them directly. Now, some of them are. I'm not going to be, living in an illusion, but when your meats have growth hormone in them, when you have you're drinking out of plastic bottles, especially things like iced teas and sugary products and all this, this is blocking our normal hormone production, both in men and women here in the United States. This is not a good thing because this actually causes a mimic of increasing our estrogen as well in men.
Sure.
When our
Sure.
estrogen is raised, we get man boobs, and we get emotional over things. We lose our ambition, our ability to want to get up and do things and create and bring in money and things like this. And you see a whole generation now, and I don't want to stereotype the entire generation because some are, they're go-getters, but you see a lot that they just want to have a simple life and they're kind of doughy. I've noticed it amongst a lot of young people. Their bodies are not like our previous generations. Some of them, from the waist down, they have a feminine figure, and even from the waist up, and they're not interested in sex, as you said. So the sex drive is very low amongst Gen Z and younger millennials. And we see it. We see it right there in front of us.
Yeah, no, that's very true. What according to this article that was in this of physiological reviews, was basically the pathogenesis is that in utero, testicles are not developing at the proper time. And so they're not as fully formed, and consequently, you got the low sperm counts and the low testosterone levels.
Yeah,
and they attribute to what they call endocrine disrupting compounds, which is a catch-all for all sorts of these all these toxins that are in the environment.
Now, I'm going to go into the science fiction realm. Do you think this is intentional?
No, I don't think so. I don't think that my opinion is no. I think it just happened, but there's the money's too big for anyone to stop it.
Yeah.
And no one really, you can have a small group of people that are going to really do it, but then like you go like, okay, what do you do?
Right.
I mean, what can you actually do? You can do some things like you do, be careful where you shop, things like that. But it's impossible to not have a lot of these things in your life if you're going to be, if you're going to be functioning. And so it's just kind of like, I don't have any solutions for this. I just know what's happening. I don't have any particular solutions. There's this, people talk about all this other therapy that's out there, lots of regenerative therapy, things like that. But so I think that's pretty good. All right.
Yeah. Well, you're in incredible shape for your age. You're going to be hitting 72 in October. That's pretty exciting. And you're powerlifting and you're doing other things. What do you think is the key to life for you? What helped you discover this, living life full out?
I was introduced. It's very simple. I was introduced to testosterone a long time ago, and the other thing, that worked really well for me and my wife, and my wife is a few years younger than I am, is that I did not get married. I was like an overcooked meal when I got married. I was 40.
Nice.
Yeah, I was 40, and my wife was in her 30s, early 30s. And I got married, and because we had kids at such a late age in our life, we tended to be always the oldest parents when it was at kindergarten, grade school, high school, whatever. We always tend to be the oldest parents, but by being around all of these really young people, it kind of like, we never really thought of ourselves as old.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so there's lots of things like that, but I would say that for me the biggest game changer is testosterone. I mean, without a doubt. Yeah, and I know men that have gone off it and that are just like, they become shells of themselves. They can't wait to get back on it.
Yeah. Men do lose their drive, not just sex drive, their drive, their ambition, their need and want to achieve goals when their testosterone gets lower. That's why your grandfather, ladies and gentlemen, mellowed out when he got older. My
Yeah,
grandfather had a hell of a temper up until he was probably 70. And then he was just like chill. He was like Zen. And I realized it was because his testosterone took a nosedive.
yeah.
But yeah.
And they become grumpy old men. So, but so that's kind of a deal here. So yeah. So let's go to I don't mean you have another
Yeah,
place you want to go to?
I wanted to talk about how let's give some examples of how you help men kick ass and change their lives and take it to the next level because I'm a big fan of this, you know. I did everything opposite in life, you know. I moved to the big city. I got my degree, you know, in that order, and then I went to the big city. But I didn't train in like, you know, jujitsu or any of these things until later in life. And for some people, this is the opposite. And I have the same kind of drive that you do, which is, you know what? It doesn't matter what my age is. I'm going to get up and I'm going to start this, or I'm going to do a new business, or I'm going to, you know, maybe take on a new black belt, you know, journey again. Um, what? Let's talk about that. What do you find when you coach men? What is the big resistance sometimes?
Um, oh gosh, that's a whole program in of itself. Brad. It's amazing. Part of it is when and I kind of alluded this earlier, the decline in testosterone happens so gradually. It's this story about putting the frog in some water and then slowly turning up the heat. So
Yes.
so so, so you don't really notice it right away. And so most people just kind of glide into it. And they just, and then of course they're around other people that are like that, and then they think, oh, this is just the way it is. And so the other thing is that, and I talk about this in my coaching, uh, the myth of status quo. There is no such thing as status quo in anything. You are either actively getting better, or if you're not doing anything, then you are by default getting worse.
Yes.
And a lot of men, people, oh, I'm good. I'm good. Well, good, if you're not working on getting better, good ends up in fair, and then eventually in shit show. And that's why a lot of guys are stunned, like, oh my God, I didn't see the divorce papers coming. Like,
Yeah.
dude, it didn't happen overnight. And so I think that's probably one of the biggest things is that you need to be a guy to have a successful relationship to a large extent needs to be uh, several things. One, he needs to be a gentleman. And that's,
Mhm.
somebody said, what's the most important thing about being a man? Being a gentleman.
Yeah.
Uh, Two, it's always good to have a little bit of bad boy.
I
Okay,
agree.
it's a uh it, it's it's kind of attractive. Three, you got to be on the hunt in your relationship. I mean, all the time. You got to flirt. You got to be fun. You got to be communicative. You got to be all those things. But you got to act. You can't act like you're entitled to sex.
Right.
And again, I teach this in my program because what I'm really, what I do in my program is I teach men how to have more sex and intimacy and also increase energy, and so they look and feel younger. But one of the things that they uh, in bringing that energy, you got to be flirtatious. You got to have fun. Yeah, you got to have also you also got to be communicative, and you also have to be a supportive spouse.
Yeah.
But oh yeah, well, I lost my train of thought, and then I came back to it. Okay, one one of the things that then again I get this like, oh, she doesn't want to, and the problem's with her, and I'm going like, no, the problem's with you. I know there's two sides to this, but right now you can't control her. And if you try, you're stupid. But there's a matter of leadership. And one of the things I tell men, like, don't stop saying this. And there's three things you got to stop saying if you want more sex. One, I want more sex. Okay. Two, I want more sex. And three is I want more sex. Because when you tell that to a woman, uh, and I'm in a group, I get coached too. I'm in a group, and I'll tell you what they call that. When you say that, what you're saying is, you know what? Let me use your vagina for a few minutes. And then when I'm done, you can have it back. It'll be a little used, it'll be a little wet, but you can have it back. And thank you. And that doesn't get it done, especially when you start answering, you're successful in business. What's in it for her?
Right.
Yeah. So you need to answer that. You need to answer that question to a large extent. And there's we talked about this term, like when the woman just she's kind of like she gets tired of the begging, of the nagging, and she just okay, fine, I'll just, and she just lays there,
Right.
not an active participant, not just, and just like, oh, please let this pounding be over. And oh, by the way, the fan in the bedroom needs to be dusted.
That's funny. Well, men can have sex anytime they want. They just need a place. We
Oh yeah.
we have sex to feel good. Women, on the other hand, need a reason, or rather, they need to feel good first before they want to have sex. So they're the complete opposite of us.
Well, I think men also need intimacy, and they need both spiritual, emotional, and physical intimacy, because otherwise, you're not much better than the dog having a sex. We
It's
always
true.
yeah. So I don't. I mean, and it's a different kind to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But they also they want that relationship there. So I think that the whole thing about intimacy is very important. And if men can turn it around. You can turn a no sex marriage into a very, very loving uh, situation where intimacy shows up, and it's enjoyable, it's pleasurable for both of you.
Right.
At the same time, if you have a negative attitude and start saying like it's all her problem, it ain't going to happen. It
Right.
ain't going to happen, because to a large extent, in that realm, you have to lead, and there's things that you need to do. And a part of it we talked about, being playful, uh, uh, being flirtatious, not boring, doing things. There's a favorite song lyric that and I'm I'm not going to tell you here I'm perfect and getting all this done all the time, blah blah. But it's a great lyric. When was the last time you did something for the first time?
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh,
That's a great question.
yeah. So that's a lyric of a song. I can't remember who the artist was, but it's a great song, and I mean, one of the things that I don't do this as often as I should. You talk about one of the things that you can do. Um, Plan a date night. Give your significant other, your wife, an idea of what to wear, and don't tell them until you get there. And if you take
Nice.
Uber, like we do all the time, because we don't drink and drive, I make sure that the Uber driver doesn't say where we're going. And it's be interesting. And
Yeah.
I think that's why we mentioned earlier on the thing about who initiates the divorce, is that the man stops being interesting.
Yeah. And that's a interesting thing that you said, and everything you talked about, I agree with when it comes to intimacy. Um, Women may not understand that men respond to touch, they respond to affection, they respond, they have their own love language. And if you withdraw the touch and affection, And I'm not talking about sex. I'm talking about just simple intimacy of touching each other, getting close, being able to hug the person, come up behind them while they're washing dishes, do those kind of little intimate, fun little things. If those things are removed, the guy is going to try and get his intimacy through sex. I've heard women say, all he wants is sex. And it's like, well, if there's no intimacy, there's no affection, there's no, little kisses, the guy's going to get his affection where he can. And if that happens to
Yeah.
be sex, it's going to be sex.
Or porn.
Yeah. Or porn, whatever. They're going to, be driven by that. How have you helped some men really like go to the next level? Do you have any examples without, giving up your NDAs?
Well, I think, okay, so my coaching program has two parts to it. One is a on-demand video program with exercises that's designed to be done one module a week.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the most important things is first is that a lot of men don't have a good relationship with themselves.
That is
And
true. I would agree with that.
and if you don't have a good relationship with yourself, there's no way you can have a good relationship with your significant other or other people in the world, your kids, whatever. So you have to one of the things is you have to work on the relationship with yourself. And there's a whole series of exercises in terms of getting rid of the victim mode, harnessing the power of pain and fear, being comfortable in your own skin. All of those things are part of that on-demand video program. And the other thing is, and I get this, I get fights on this all the time. Simon Sinek has it wrong. You don't start with why. You start with what, because as soon as you say why, you get the next question is why what.
That is true. Why what?
Yeah, why what? And the thing is that we get into we all get into this. I'm not like I said, I'm not perfect. We all get into this like, oh, I'm doing this because I should. And that's a road to not getting anything done. Because when you have the wrong what, if you have the wrong what, you're going to have a crappy why, and nothing's going to happen. You know, so you better be careful about that what, and then figure out the why, and then the last thing is the how, which is most people ask about the how, and those people never get any shit done because they're I guess they're what we refer to as ask holes. They're the people at a webinar when the speaker's trying to go and take a pee and get a break and clear their head. They're up there at the podium asking a bunch of questions about how. And again, those people never get shit done. So those are the things. And then the last module I refer to is how to get laid more frequently without begging.
I love that.
And yeah, and no woman wants a man who's turned in his man card and begged. It's not
never
good for
beg
anyone.
And never beg and never say thank you. It wasn't a gift.
Yeah. So I those are the things, and then that's balanced off with my 12 weeks of one-on-one 1 hour coaching, which I do, where I get some people may think I'm a very hard person, and
No.
I'm very straightforward. I get to the point, and sometimes the point's going to make you uncomfortable. But I have some reviews on LinkedIn, and they're all kind of funny. They all kind of saying the same thing, like Orest has a unique way of getting you to do the things that you don't want to do, but you know you need to. You get the results you want.
You're the stepdad we've always needed.
Yeah,
Whoops your
yeah,
butt.
yeah, yeah.
You're like the ex-military stepfather who comes in and brings
And
discipline to the home.
yeah, well, and I don't do it, and I think what really is disarming is most of the time there are times I get animated. Most of the time I'm not animated about it.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm sitting there yelling, but I just asked really hard questions. I know I was on call with a man who was really just a actually he's a very good man, but it was in a horrible situation,
Yeah.
which he was execrating himself. But I was asking a bunch of questions, and he was just like, I mean, he broke down several times crying, because the questions were at the root of what his challenge was.
Yeah.
And so it was to the point. But I think yeah, and also I have a pretty good bullshit meter. I've told people that they're lying.
Yeah.
Uh
I
and
think that's
and
a
and
good thing. I mean,
yeah. Oh yeah.
not to interrupt you, but I think we've entered into the last 30, 40 years. You and I grew up with teachers who kicked our butts, and then you realize they loved teaching. They loved helping us. And at the end of the day, sometimes we became their favorite student. But in the
Yeah.
beginning, we misinterpreted it as they were picking on us. They weren't.
Yeah.
They were tough on us because they had a higher standard. And I feel that's who you are. You're somebody who has a very high standard. I don't see you as intimidating or somebody to be afraid of, at all. I see you as, okay, if I'm hiring this guy as a coach, yeah, he's going to be a coach. He's not going to pussyfoot around and tell me you're
No.
special, Brad. He's going to say,
Yeah.
Brad, you fell down over here, here, and here. And I'd rather have that. I'd rather have the kick butt coach than the person who tells me, pardon me, blows smoke up my ass all day. Pardon me for
Yeah.
saying that.
Yeah. 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 This is not therapy. The point is not for me to help you feel good. The point is for me to help you get results so that you feel good about the results you're generating.
Yes.
That's the point. And in the very beginning, one of the first things that we do is we work on the what. And the what is a very specific thing. It has to be measurable, has to be quantifiable. You can't tell me, it can't be something like, well, I want to be happier. Well, shit, what the fuck does that mean? And not only that, but you know what? I can make you happy. I can get you to happy land in
Yeah.
a matter of seconds. Yeah, go ahead and go down to the corner and buy some crack cocaine and shoot it, and you'll be happy.
Yeah. Uh, what did Peter Drucker say? If you can't manage it, you can't measure it. Or if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. That's what he said,
Yeah.
Peter Drucker.
Yeah.
So
And people say, "Oh, I can't measure it." And I go, "No, you can't. You just
you
okay,
can.
think about it. Think
Yeah.
about it." And so, we can measure things, the easiest one is health to measure because how many reps can you do? What weights are you doing? What is your weight? What's your ideal weight that you want to be at? All those things. That's the easiest one to do. Some of the ones are a little bit harder. When you talk about dealing with your faith in God. That's a little bit harder. That's a little bit more of a challenge to quantify. So that's more quantified by actions that you take.
Right.
And then you have your business, and then you have your relationships. But all of those things are quantifiable.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point is that that you have to measure, and you have to know where you're starting from.
Right.
Because that way that you don't know if you're going in the right direction or the wrong direction.
I agree with you. Ladies and gentlemen, please reach out to, and I'm going to say doctor because you've earned it, Orest. Go to the standard.academy and start digging into some of his mentoring programs and things that he has on the site. I'm also going to leave in the show notes some other shows he's been on. Really, you're a great interview. And also, he has a magazine called The Standard Academy, and
Right.
you can get that at the website as well. But I love some of your topics in the magazine. You have one secret place to touch a woman.
That's
Learn
right.
how to turn her on in 30 seconds flat.
Right.
Are tired of being fat, tired of man boobs? keto start. Then they say, so you want to be a podcaster? And you talk about that. Why are men pissing their pants? Urinary continence, erectile dysfunction, the secret of the gooch ball. So these are great topics, and they're definitely for us men of a certain age. So I love what you're doing, man. I really do.
Yeah. Brad, can I give you two more your URLs?
Yes, please.
Okay. So, folks, if you want to do a what's called a discovery call, generally there's no pitch at that call. Go to www.thestandard.academy / discovery call. And then the other thing is that if you want to know about that secret place, again, these are all affiliate links. I don't work for free. www.thestandard.academy EHOT / EHOT.
EHOT. Okay.
Yeah, / www.thestandard.academy / EHOT. And I will tell you that it works.
Yeah. Excuse me. That is worth its weight in gold if you know how to touch a woman just right. Yeah, and I'll look that up. Fascinating discussion, my friend. I really enjoyed you being here on Awakened Nation. And everybody, please reach out. Orest, this has been a fascinating conversation, and hopefully we can turn this world around. I'm also conservative as well, so and I live here in Vegas. So awesome. So we're going to go into the lightning round. I'm going to ask you a few questions and see if you can answer them in a way that our audience gets to know you better. Are you ready?
I don't know if that's such a good thing.
Yeah, it is. Trust me. Do you have an obsession or a passion that we don't know about that you just love to do?
Okay, the first one is my vice. I love smoking cigars. I love smoking cigars, and when I have a cigar, I'll have one or two drinks. I'll have a Tito's Gibson, which is basically a martini, but instead of olives, you have cocktail onions.
Yep.
Or I'll have a scotch.
Oh, nice. McAllen does tastings around the city every once in a while, so yeah, that's fantastic. Nice. 2 vices and 2 vices only. That's not bad.
Well, that's. I want to be a little bit of a mystery still.
Yeah. Well, I also like a good cigar. My dad used to smoke cigars in a pipe. I don't make it a habit, but I definitely enjoy sitting down by the campfire, maybe a glass of wine, maybe a glass of something. I like a old fashioned made with bourbon, sometimes scotch, and that's a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm on board with you.
You know, I just kind of should use the analogy of Campfire. I interviewed a gentleman by the name of Daniel Marshall, who is basically is a world-class humidor maker. I mean, he makes humidors. Wow. His clients are Arnold Schwarzenegger, every president of the United States. Just that's kind of like where he's at. But he talks about how cigars like sitting around a campfire.
Yeah, it is. I had Bodie Aldridge on the show. He's from Australia, and he does some men's group trainings for C-level guys, guys in their 50s as well. You two should connect. But he talks about he surfs every day. That's his big thing. And he lives in Australia. And he sets up a fire camp retreat all the time, weekends where they get together and they go over their crap and they really get it out. A fireplace is a place where we used to tell the stories of the tribe. We used to tell our own pain, and we used to get healing from other men, because I truly believe only men can help other men. We live in a very strange world where, my ex-wife came from a culture where men would go off and hang out with men. and get their hair cut and talk politics and learn and come back. And women would hang out with women occasionally. So it was part of the culture. It was part of their belief, that men can only understand and to discuss certain things amongst other men. And I truly believe that. Yeah. So my second question is, do you have a favorite memory?
I know people are going to say bullshit on this. But when I got married,
Nice.
it was just, like I'd been engaged several times. And that's a whole nother story. And where I would tell when I was breaking up the engagement, I'd say, no, it's me, not you, even though I thought it was her, but it was really me. But no, I have an incredible wife. I'm very lucky to have her in my life, and so I'd say that's probably one of the highlights. I think that when I took my oldest daughter to Iceland, my youngest daughter to New Zealand, those were also very special moments.
That is, yeah, father-daughter time. That's awesome.
Mm.
My last question is, you mentioned that you're a Republican, straight white male. And we talked about the next generation having lower and lower testosterone to the point where we might go extinct after 2025. What is your greatest hope for humanity, knowing this?
I think that again, this is very political. I think things have been pushed so hard in this woke agenda that people have had enough.
Yeah.
A boy cannot become a girl cannot become a boy. Okay, that's gender and sex are essentially the same thing. The whole concept of giving people stuff for free, regardless of what they do, is bad for everyone, including the people that get it, because then it becomes them, it makes them reliant on the government for what they get. I think that's a horrible thing. I think that I think we're worse off in some ways and better off in other ways. In terms of, I think there's been some, people have played the victim card, which is a horrible card that's a horrible thing. And I know that from personal experience, because there was a time when I thought in my life that everything was happening to me and I had no control over my life, and I was the victim of that. And I had several things that happened to me that really kind of killed the victim mentality. And I don't think I even think of as a victim, even when shit's going bad. I don't think of myself as a victim anymore. I just because I'm very careful. And this comes from Tony Robbins, because a while back, my wife and I really did a bunch of Tony Robbins stuff and went to a lot of seminars and things like that. The quality, and he says this, and this is one of his mantras, the quality of your life is dependent on the questions you ask yourself. Okay. So, wow. Yeah. And just let me give you, I'll give you an example. We all have conversations in our head all the time. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad conversations. But if your conversation in your head consistently goes in this direction, why is this always happening to me? Your brain's going to give you an answer. Okay.
It's true.
And so that is what I refer, and I talk about this in my coaching. That is what I refer as a victim-based question. And the question that you need to be asked is how do I get what I want? That's a whole different question versus the other one. And like I said, the quality of your questions are very, very important. And getting out of the victim mindset is also very important. Wow. And it's sometimes if you have it ingrained, and I had it ingrained in me as a child, because that's kind of was the belief system. I mean, I had kind of I did not have what you'd call a good childhood. But you have to get past that victim mindset.
Yeah. Well said. I think a rough childhood prepares you for life, because I have friends right now who are dealing with issues I dealt with when I was 10. And I feel bad for them, because emotionally they're not prepared. They're going through the storms I went through between, 5 years of age and 21. And I think we are in a society today that tries to disrupt that normal way of learning and going through life and taking a beating and learning to stand up, whether it's emotionally, mentally, spiritually, or physically. And I'm so glad that you're doing the work you're doing, helping older guys create kick-ass lives for themselves and those they love. Dr. Orest Komarnyckyj, thank you for being on Awakened Nation. Your work is so needed right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad.
You bet. Don't forget to reach out and take some of his classes. Go to The Standard. I love that. TheStandard.academy. And just look around there. You're going to find some great things. Hire him to help you get back on track. Don't forget, we're talking about testosterone as well. That's the other thing. You gotta find a doctor that can help you out. Am I right?
Absolutely.
Yes. So thank you once again. Thank you for being on Awakened Nation. My friends, tune in next week for another great guest here on the show. Until then, bye-bye for now. Thank you so much for being a big part of the Awakened Nation movement. This is how you can help me and our extraordinary guests. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe and share this episode out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And let's grow this movement by word of mouth. Our success is because of you. Thank you, and see you next week.